The $25,000 Tesla is going to be a miraculous invention that is going to be very, very difficult to make profitably if you consider that today, in 2021, Tesla is still kind of struggling to even hit $37,000 on their cheapest model, the Standard Range Plus Model 3. And I know there's going to be a lot of manufacturing breakthroughs to make a vehicle like this possible. Whether it's rear or front single-piece castings from giant gigapresses, or as Elon has talked about, having a front and rear casting that's all one piece with a structural battery pack and making it smaller. Tesla is going to have to figure out a lot of different manufacturing efficiencies to make it possible. And something they've kind of confirmed at Battery Day was that the 25K model will be using iron phosphate cells, which they are already using in the Standard Range Model 3 in China. This has a bit lower energy density and the battery itself takes up more space, but it is cobalt free, which means that the minerals involved in this battery can be mined a lot easier and a lot more ethically. The price of the batteries typically end up being a bit cheaper as well, but it's because of the fact these batteries are lower energy density and they're only using it in a rear-wheel drive single motor Model 3 right now. The batteries are being provided in Shanghai by CATL, which once again, the fact that they're the only ones using lithium iron phosphate in the Tesla lineup right now points to the idea that this entry-level Tesla will start in Shanghai because manufacturing is so cheap there and they've already got iron phosphate in use. But I think this could end up being one of the most simple configurations Tesla ever launches. This is not a leak, you know, I don't have a source and I'm no engineer here. I'm just a guy in sweatpants talking to a camera in my living room. But I personally think that because the CATL batteries that are based on the iron phosphate chemistry are much larger, and this is supposed to be a more compact model that's even smaller than that of the Model 3, I'm anticipating this will be a rear-wheel drive only vehicle. And because of the weight savings and the manufacturing efficiencies they develop by having more casting presses and the structural battery pack, I haven't seen this idea thrown around much, which is why I wanted to just go on the record and let you know what I'm thinking. But I personally think this vehicle, because they have to get the price so low and every type of configuration you have for a vehicle adds to the overall cost, whether or not you want to have different interior options, more and more paint options mean you have to have more areas of the factory designated to painting separate colors, more tire options, more seating options. All of this stuff complicates the entire factory floor and as a whole ends up increasing the price of the end product. So potentially for the Model 2, they might have one trim basically to choose from, which we haven't exactly seen Tesla done before. And I know that sounds kind of crazy at first, but the way I look at it is there's got to be some type of catch that prevents Tesla from cannibalizing Model 3 sales and also being able to hit a price point so low while still including a over 250 mile range, the full self-driving computer, the autopilot cameras, the interior quality still has to be somewhat on par with that of the Model 3 and Y. They're likely still going to want to make it a premium experience that doesn't compromise on safety, which involves making sure that the roof is still glass and probably going to have a powered liftgate in the back and everything. So where do they cut corners exactly outside of just the 4680s, the single piece castings? If right now they're struggling to hit $37,000 with the Model 3, they got to go down another $12,000 to hit $25K, and I think by immensely simplifying the manufacturing process, this could be done. So if they decide that the Model 2 will be rear-wheel drive, single motor only, because iron phosphate batteries take up much more space, and this is supposed to be a smaller car overall, which means a smaller motor could probably still get you quite a bit of speed, and an all-wheel drive vehicle of this caliber and at this price point is probably not going to be very necessary. I could see Tesla saying this vehicle, you know, it's going to be optimized for the robo-taxi network. It's not supposed to be built to be this high performance or extremely quick. It's supposed to be just the absolute basics that's still comfortable and still fun to drive, but is able to deliver you that Tesla experience at sub $30,000. So you got one range option, only one motor, and knowing Tesla, why stop there? They're probably going to only have a couple color options to choose from and maybe only one tire option to choose from. I don't know how complicated it is to have different tires for them, and maybe it makes more sense for them to upsell you on more sporty tires if you choose them. But the thing to keep in mind about the Model 2 here is that Tesla is going to be moving forward with extreme scale, even more so than that of the Model 3 and Y, which means that if they're going to be building tons and tons of these things, the simpler they can make the configurator so that all of your options are basically going to be limited to one page, barely any scrolling necessary, the better it'll be for their manufacturing, because they can just see, okay, we've got like 10,000 orders today, so let's build 10 10,000 of this type of vehicle. Not like, okay, we got 3,000 of this trim and we got 2,000 of this trim and then we got 5,000 of this trim, so we're going to designate these assembly lines for this variation and then we're going to dedicate these assembly lines for this configuration. If they can simplify it across the board, which is partially why I think the Cybertruck is able to captivate so many people's attention because the range is so good and the price is so good, I think that's mainly possible because of how simple manufacturing might be for the truck. Sure, we don't know too much about mass producing the exoskeleton. That might end up being more complicated than we think, but I do know at the end of the day, there's pretty much only going to be 3 trims of the truck, and even that single motor variant, I'm not entirely sure if Tesla's going to go forward with. They might end up axing it, sort of like the standard range Y and the off-menu Model 3. They might experiment it for a while and then just decide, you know what, this isn't too profitable, and it's easier for us to just focus on the higher range variants. But yeah, there's no paint options on the Cybertruck, which saves them a lot on the factory floor because they don't have to have this giant complicated paint shop that they've worked so hard on both at Giga Texas and Giga Berlin. Cybertruck production gets to bypass that entirely, and also fairly likely there's only going to be one set of tires that come with the Cybertruck. Honestly, I can't envision many other tires working with the Cybertruck. I've seen the 18-inch aero wheels on the truck. It just looks weird. And depending how Giga Texas works out, they might just have one interior option on the Cybertruck as well. It might be very simple, and Tesla will just say, if you want more customization, you gotta do it yourself. It will probably blossom a huge community of third-party options that allow you to tinker the Cybertruck interior exactly how you want, and of course, you'll be able to wrap the Cybertruck in any color you want. So, looking at those manufacturing efficiencies they've discovered with the Cybertruck, I imagine them like exponentially doubling down on efficiency with the Model 2, which is why in the thumbnail I even made the option of just having 3 colors, kind of like how Apple only had 3 colors with the iPhone SE. It was just like black, white, and red because the phone is so cheap. Similar tactic with the Model 2, perhaps. They don't have the patience of keeping around like 5 or 6 different paint colors for the customer to choose from. They're just going to keep it real simple. In fact, in China, they have their own first-party wrapping service. So potentially, if they're starting Model 2 production there, maybe they'll just have one color for everything. You don't even have a paint option to choose from. But of course, it's only going to be a $25,000 car. So if you really care that much about the exterior, buy a $25K Tesla and then spend another $5K on wrapping it exactly how you want, with any kind of graphics you want, with any kind of pattern you can imagine. It doesn't have to just be red, blue, gray. Instead, you could design it exactly how you want, and even then, you would still be spending way less money than you would on a Model 3. So I don't think just having one color option would prevent the Model 2 from selling great. If Tesla in the next few years starts using lithium iron phosphate on multiple different variants and not just single motor standard range vehicles, then maybe I would change my mind here. But the fact that to this day they've only been using the iron phosphate on single motor vehicles, and I know those cells are less energy dense, so the battery itself takes up a tad more space, and the Model 2 is supposed to be so small, and Tesla is saying they're going to use iron phosphate with it, I think it's going to be single motor, one battery size. There's no long range variant, there's no performance variant. Knowing Tesla and how they act whenever they get cars real cheap, I wouldn't be shocked if they make a bunch of software unlockable features to try to make the vehicle more profitable. Kind of like how we have the $2,000 acceleration boost now. Model 2 might be able to say, yeah, if you want it to go faster than the average Model 2, you just gotta spend $2,000 in the app. Or if you want to spend $300 to unlock rear heated seats, because those are going to be turned off by default. Seems like whenever Tesla hits those low prices, they like having these different software unlockable features so that in the long run they can make the vehicle a tad more profitable. So I won't be shocked if they do that type of approach with the Model 2. And of course, full self-driving, however much that is going to cost by the time the Model 2 is out, probably $15,000 or something crazy like that. But this is my prediction. I'd love to hear whether or not you guys think it's believable or not, and if you don't, please explain why you think having more complexities in the manufacturing process would make sense for them in the long run. The way I see it is if you're trying to get a Tesla new for under $30,000, you don't need a ton of variety. So if you want a range that surpasses 300 miles comfortably, Tesla's probably just going to say, you know what, just get the Model 3 or get the Model Y. But if you don't need a 300-mile range and you're comfortable with a bit of a smaller car, Model 2, one size fits all. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care.